The mystery surrounding the untimely death of Lee Ratter should not by rights have been so terribly difficult to solve. If it wasn't suicide, that is, and within minutes of his arrival, the first officer of the scene strongly doubted that it was.
I was pretty certain in my mind that this was going to be a homicide investigation.
So if he was right, it would be the first homicide he'd ever seen in that little Phoenix suburb. But why murder and not suicide? Sergeant Lafko wasn't a homicide detective, but by his reckoning, Lee's body looked as if it had been tampered with after death. Staged, in other words.
I keyed down that gun that was in his right hand, and it just didn't look right. It looked like it was placed there.
In fact, looked to him like somebody moved a bunch of things around.
It just kind of made the hair on back of my neck stand on end. As soon as the detectives got there, they're finding other things too, that, this isn't right. This doesn't seem right.
Which perhaps explains what felt to Belinda like an inquisition down at the sheriff's office.
They wouldn't let me go to the bathroom. They wouldn't let me have water. I was freezing. I asked for a blanket. Nothing. I think it was a total of like 4 or 5 hours.
Was Belinda involved? Too soon to say, perhaps. They turned the same focused attention then on Papa, or if you will, Rob Fisher.
I loved him as the father of my grandchildren, the husband of my stepdaughter, and a friend to me.
Rob was still in his pajamas and stewing in an alcohol level that was still twice the legal limit when the detective ushered him into the interview room.
Can you tell me what happened?
We boys and I left. We were having some cocktails. We were talking like we always do. Everybody went to bed. I heard a popping sound. Came out.
What condition was he in when you talked to him?
Well, he was intoxicated. He wasn't fall down stupid drunk in that I carried on a conversation with him. He was answering questions.
Rob told the detective he was asleep in the guest room when it happened.
You were in the front bedroom, in the bed.
Then he said he heard the shot, saw the body.
You heard it pop. You come out of the room. And then, what did you see?
Still to this day difficult to think of Lee lying there dead.
But remember, Lee did not have a gun, nor did Belinda. So where did it come from? Sergeant Lafko may have answered that question himself when he looked in Rob's gym bag in the guest room.
I find the blue nylon duffel bag. It was already opened. I look inside the bag, and I see a gun holster.
An empty holster. So, would Rob confirm the gun was his?
Did you roll with firearms? Did you travel with
my gun in my bag?
Okay. What type of firearm was it?
Sig 380. It was unloaded because of the kids. I had taken all the bolts out, put it in the proprietary bag.
Admission number 1. The gun that killed Lee belonged to Rob. Rob said he always took it with him on the road. After all, he was an ex-cop, was fully licensed.
Okay, and your bag was in your room?
But how did Rob's unloaded gun get from a holster in the guest room into Lee's hand and with bullets in it? Good question. Rob couldn't seem to answer it.
Mike, I was really drinking, and I don't remember a lot. About 2 hours of alcohol.
After a round of questions, they paused and standard procedure took Rob's clothes for testing. And then the detective bored in for answers.
It looks like Lee didn't commit suicide, and that's why I'm turning to you to help fill in some of the void. But somebody moved him. Okay. What do you feel happened?
I don't believe I shot him. It was never seen. I loved him. We've never fought. We hadn't fought.
I'm trying to remember it as best I can. I will say I don't remember everything, and and that's maddening in and of itself.
Maddening indeed. So many I don't knows from both Rob and Belinda that morning. By the end of the interviews with both Belinda and with Rob, What were you thinking about their stories taken collectively?
Were there questions that I had? Absolutely. I didn't know what I was dealing with.
Right. But for all the immediate suspicion, the police investigation didn't seem to go anywhere. Rob went home to his law practice in California. How much do you beat yourself up that you allowed yourself to take that gun into their home?
It was my normal practice. Do I wish on that one particular trip I wouldn't have? Of course.
And Belinda went to California too with her girls, to be with her biological father, Jerry. And it was there she tried to explain that they lost their father.
We are on my dad and my stepmom's couch, and we brought the girls in, and I had been crying, obviously, pretty severely. We were just like a little powwow circle, and just told him that Daddy was in heaven. Sorry.
Up in Buffalo, meanwhile, Lee's mother and siblings were suffering from their own brand of agony. Of the mushroom in the dark variety, they kept asking what was going on, and nobody told them anything.
It was an open investigation. And it remained an open investigation for a very long time.
But of course, investigators couldn't reveal what they knew or didn't know, standard procedure. But excruciating for Lee's family.
When I talked to the detective, because he kept saying, they're doing tests, we don't have an answer. He said they were still processing the evidence. And then I didn't hear from him for 2 months, which was very strange.
Even the coroner maintained an official silence. For months, there was no ruling on the question of suicide or homicide. And then, half a year after Lee's death, Belinda organized a memorial service.
I had a celebration of life on what would have been his 50th birthday in California at the restaurant that we had our first date.
Lee's Buffalo relatives got the invitation and flew out to attend. The tension was palpable. Lee's sister Ann confronted Belinda.
I went up and said, I need answers. You were there. You must be able to, just tell me what happened. You'll never know what happened.
Not, I don't know what happened myself, but
You'll never know what happened.
We asked Belinda, what did she remember of that conversation?
Not what I said. I would never say that. What I said was, this is not the time or the place to have that kind of discussion.
And Rob? He was there too, but
Never said a word to us. If my gun killed your son, I would certainly apologize to you. If you can't come up and face a person and talk to them, that's guilt.
It was emotional. It was difficult because this is the first time I've ever seen Robert Fisher. And he was very secluded, off into a corner of the room. So I never really got to speak to him.
So, as we say, tension.
I don't know if I could ever say anything that would change how they feel. I mean, we all lost someone we loved that day.
Lee's family was more frustrated than ever. Seemed like a cover-up to them. Do you have any firm ideas about what happened to your son?
Somebody killed him.
Beyond that?
There were only 2 adults in the house besides him.
And if nobody else would tell her what happened, Lee's sister decided she was going to find the answer herself.
Coming up, Lee's family gets a hold of the entire 911 call. It triggers new suspicions about Rob's behavior.
It doesn't make sense to me.
And Belinda's.
Why isn't Belinda doing CPR on my brother? She's a nurse.
When Dateline continues.